The Louisiana sun, a relentless eye in the sky, baked the asphalt of Treme, a New Orleans neighborhood steeped in history and a quiet, simmering defiance. Officer David Mack McMillan, a man whose badge often felt like a physical weight on his chest, wiped sweat from his brow. His patrol car idled, its air conditioning struggling, outside a modest shotgun house. The air hung thick with the scent of magnolias and an unspoken tension that often permeated these humid streets. Dispatch crackled, reporting a noise complaint. A dog, barking with unusual persistence, causing a disturbance. Mac sighed. Another mundane call in a city brimming with complex problems. He'd joined the force years ago, fueled by idealistic notions of justice. But the reality was a slow erosion of those ideals, chipped away by bureaucracy, cynicism, and the subtle, insidious currents of racial bias that ran beneath the city's vibrant surface. He knew the history of Treme, a place that had seen its share of battles, both celebrated and silently endured. As he approached the house, the barking intensified, a low, guttural growl that suggested more than just annoyance. He could hear a woman's voice, a melodic, slightly raspy alto, attempting to soothe the agitated animal. The front door was ajar, revealing a glimpse of a meticulously kept living room, filled with the aroma of simmering greens and something sweet, like peach cobbler. It was a domestic scene, yet the dog's aggression created a jarring contrast. Then he saw it. A formidable, brindle pit bull, its muscles rippling beneath its short coat, straining at its leash, a flimsy nylon strap held by a surprisingly frail hand. The hand belonged to an elderly black woman, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, her face a tapestry of wrinkles etched by a life of hard work and quiet dignity. Her eyes, though, were sharp, intelligent, and currently filled with a mixture of exasperation and weary resignation. She seemed to know this dance, this confrontation, all too well. "Ma'am, can you control that dog?" Mac asked, his voice tighter than he intended. The pit bull, sensing his presence, lunged forward with a renewed ferocity, its bared teeth a stark white against its dark muzzle, a chilling display. "He's just a bit excitable, officer," she replied, her voice calm despite the visible strain in her arm. "He doesn't mean any harm. Just protective." Mac felt a flicker of unease. He'd seen enough dog attacks, enough victims, to know that protective could turn deadly in an instant. He glanced back at his K-9 unit, Kaiser, a sleek German shepherd, who sat patiently in the back of his cruiser, a picture of disciplined readiness. Kaiser was well-trained, a stark contrast to the agitated pit bull that seemed on the verge of breaking free. "I'm going to need you to secure that animal, ma'am," Max stated, his hand already on Kaiser's leash, a subtle threat in his posture. "If you can't, I'll have to consider other options." The woman's lips thinned, and a spark of something defiant lit her eyes. "I've had King since he was a pup. He's never hurt a soul, and he won't start now." Her grip on the leash seemed to strengthen, her frail frame somehow radiating stubborn resolve. "Ma'am, with all due respect, I can't take that chance," Mac insisted, his patience wearing thin. He was keenly aware of the murmurs from neighbors who had started to gather, their faces a mix of curiosity and simmering resentment. This was Treme, and a white officer confronting an elderly black woman over her dog could quickly escalate into something far more volatile than a simple noise complaint. He could feel their eyes, judging, waiting, without another word, driven by a combination of training, a growing sense of urgency, and perhaps a subconscious desire to assert authority in a challenging situation. Mac unlatched Kaiser's kennel. The German shepherd sprang out, alert and ready, his powerful muscles rippling beneath his coat. "Officer, wait," the woman cried, her voice losing its composure, a tremor of genuine fear entering her tone. But it was too late. Mac, seeing the pit bull surge forward again, interpreted it as an aggressive, unprovoked move. He gave Kaiser the command, his voice sharp and clear. "Kaiser, contain." The German shepherd, trained for precisely such situations, darted towards the pit bull. The two dogs met in a whirlwind of growls, and snapping jaws. The pit bull, surprised by the trained aggression and the German shepherd's sheer force, yelped and tried to retreat, but Kaiser was relentless, his grip firm, disciplined, and unyielding. The elderly woman screamed, a raw, primal sound that cut through the humid air like a knife. She stumbled, falling to her knees, her face contorted in anguish, tears instantly springing to her eyes. Mac felt a sickening lurch in his stomach. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. He had wanted to de-escalate, to control the situation, not to cause such distress. He quickly commanded Kaiser to release, and the German shepherd instantly disengaged, returning to his side, panting softly. The pit bull, whimpering, limped back to the trembling woman, who cradled its head in her lap, her body shaking with sobs. You attacked my king," she sobbed, her voice thick with betrayal, each word a painful accusation. Mac knelt, his heart pounding with a mixture of profound regret and a sudden, chilling realization. He had seen that face before, those eyes, that delicate yet resilient strength. The features, the set of her jaw, the way her hair was pulled back. It was all disturbingly familiar. He opened his mouth to apologize, to explain, to offer help, but the words caught in his throat, a lump of dread forming. Just then, the front door of the shotgun house, which had been slightly ajar, swung open wider. A man stood there, tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in a faded military t-shirt and sweatpants. His eyes, the same sharp, intelligent blue as the woman's, narrowed as he took in the scene. The weeping elderly woman, the whimpering pit bull, and Officer McMillan, still kneeling, his police dog calmly beside him. "Mama? What in God's name is going on here?" The man's voice was a low rumble, laced with an undeniable authority that brooked no argument. The woman looked up, her tear-streaked face now registering surprise, mixed with the shock of recognition. "David? You're home early. David. Mac." The names echoed in the stifling air, a grotesque chorus of recognition. Mac's blood ran cold. The man stepped out fully, and the afternoon sun caught the silver glint of a chain around his neck, a dog tag. And on the dog tag, inscribed in bold letters, was a name that made Mac's breath hitch, a name he hadn't heard in years, a name that sliced through his very being, McMillan. The world spun. David McMillan, his former field training officer, a man he hadn't seen in nearly a decade, not since David had retired from the Army and trained Mac during his first year on the force. And the woman on the ground, the elderly black woman he had just ordered his police dog to attack. She was David's mother, Evelyn McMillan. "Mom?" Mac whispered, the single word a raw, desperate plea, a fragile bridge between his professional identity and his deepest personal ties. Mrs. Evelyn McMillan, tears streaking her weathered face, finally looked directly at the kneeling officer. Her eyes widened in disbelief as they scanned the familiar features. "Mac? David, is that your trainee?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mix of recognition and horror. The pit bull whimpered beside her. The crowd, once murmuring with quiet judgment, fell in a stunned silence. They were no longer spectators to a typical confrontation. They were witnesses to something far more personal. David stepped forward, eyes locked on the officer. His voice, stripped of its earlier authority, cracked under the weight of realization. "Mac, is that really you?" Mac stood slowly, his chest tightening as shame gripped him. His mind spun. Training, instinct, assumptions, all of it had blinded him to what now seemed painfully clear. He hadn't seen a woman defending her pet. He hadn't seen his mentor's mother. He had seen a problem to neutralize. And now, he was standing amid the wreckage of that snap judgment. But he looked at David, then back at Evelyn, who now clutched the injured king in her lap. Her eyes, though full of pain, held a glimmer of something else, sorrow laced with fragile hope. "Ma'am," Mac murmured, barely above a whisper. I didn't know." The words felt hollow, useless, but they were all he had. Regret clawed at his chest, raw and unforgiving. The pit bull let out a soft whimper as Evelyn gently stroked his head. Then she reached out, her thin fingers brushing against Mac's sleeve. hesitant, almost afraid. "My son's trainee," she whispered, more to herself than to him. Her touch wasn't warm, but it wasn't cold either. It was a question, a plea, and maybe even the beginning of forgiveness. The air still carried the weight of what had just occurred, but something had shifted. The tension of racial confrontation gave way to the ache of personal reckoning. This wasn't just about policy or prejudice. It was about blindness to humanity, to connections deeper than appearances or uniforms. Max stared down at his hands, the same ones that had loosed a trained dog onto an innocent family. He had been molded to act quickly, to control, but never to see. And today, he had failed to see a woman who once cooked for his mentor, who knew the weight of service, and who only wanted to protect her companion. The neighbors, once ready to record another tragic confrontation, now stood as silent witnesses to something deeper. A man forced to confront his biases not from a protest, but from the arms of the family he forgot he had. Mac didn't say anything more. There were no words left, only the memory of the bark that had started it all, and the long road of accountability ahead.